measured against your Bitcoin, you know for sure all prices are falling. They continue to fall, right? Energy prices are falling. Your house prices are falling. Every price on the planet is falling. If you truly understand Bitcoin, you have a protocol, a protocol that's never existed before, that's decentralized and secure and bounded by energy.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show today. I'm here with a guest who needs no introduction. Jeff, how are you doing today?
Great to chat with you.
Likewise, thank you so much for doing this with me. I really appreciate it. As I was telling you off camera, I started to read your book, Price of Tomorrow, and I'm loving it so far. So I have a lot I would love to ask you. So if you don't mind, I would like to jump into it.
Yep, you bet.
Fantastic. What is wrong with our current financial system?
It's built on inflation, and the productivity of the world is deflationary. So what if you just simply said the natural state of the free market is deflation? We as human beings trade with each other to try to create more value. And anytime there's anything stuck, then it creates higher margins for the entrepreneurs that are finding that stock, and then entrepreneurs attack those higher margins, and we only use things that give us more value. So we are part of the equation that drives prices down forever, and trading all over the world to try to gain more value. In fact, the free market is the only thing that we've ever found that we could put our selfishness, we could put our combined nature above our selfishness, because we will trade with people we hate to try to get more value. And so it's just a natural force that allows prices to fall, and prices fall, and through that engine, prices are supposed to fall forever as the productivity flows to humans in the form of lower prices. But the system that we measure from is not that system. The system we measure from is a manipulated system that artificially makes prices rise against that. And most people measure that system from zero inflation. And they think their pocket is getting picked by the rate of inflation on top of zero. But the pocket is getting picked a lot worse than that, because it should be measured from the productivity rate of the free market, which is negative. So today that would probably be, without the misallocated capital and the manipulation of markets and the decentralization of big government driving more and more into the business, that would probably today be somewhere like 5% deflationary. And then next year it might be 7%. And the year after it might be 12 or 15%, meaning every single person on the planet would get richer by that rate of productivity, even if they did nothing. So what's wrong is these two systems cannot coexist. One system subsumes the other, and you have a centralized behemoth that control, which isn't a market system; it's a control system. And from that system, living standards must go down because the free market is more productive. So because it has more shots on net. So you live in you were moving towards a totalitarian control system that is as a result of manipulated money that most people feed back into. Trying to gain more money from that system only feeds it and makes it stronger. So I know that that was a long ramble, but the biggest thing is these things are incongruent together. You have the free market, which should drive prices down, period. The only thing that can measure that free market is Bitcoin, because it's outside of the existing system. It's bounded by energy, and it's protocol bounded by energy, and so it's measuring prices falling, while most people are converting Bitcoin to a piece of paper that's being manipulated and thinking the price of Bitcoin is going up.
I love this. Thank you, by the way, for the explanation. I mean, how long do you think we have until the US dollar is going to basically collapse? And what kind of signs we should look for?
Yeah, so all of these things are so much more complicated than people believe. Like, you're living in the people are trying to measure is, I've said this many times, but which snowflake causes the avalanche rather than the growing instability of a system. and every one of their actions are part of the instability in the system. So if you're measuring in fiat, you are part of the instability. And just ask yourself this when you say collapse: if the government, if the U.S. dollar starts to fail, which it won't anytime soon, because you know what ends up happening anytime that there's fail, other countries' currencies fail first, and as a result of them failing, all of that labor gets cheaper versus the U.S. dollar, and the U.S. dollar gets stronger, and more people want the U.S. dollar. So it's not going to fail anytime soon. Other countries will, and most people will make that stronger. The far greater risk is the instability of that system perpetuating essentially a crime across humanity. Modern day slavery is driving a war machine that is breaking the world apart. That's the greater risk, and most people don't see it. And they're driving the war machine through their actions, and making that stronger, because that entire system is based on theft. It has to it has to steal from people to transfer to other people, and everyone within it is most people not knowing, trying to gain enough money to matter or to feed their families, are making it stronger by their actions within it. Most people are measuring in a U.S. currency, and even if they're measuring in their local currency, they're tethered to a U.S. dollar system, and it's not going to break anytime soon.
It's crazy when you start looking into these things, and inflation is so deep, and it just attacks you in many sides. Like, not only your purchasing power is going to diminish, but also the products you buy are becoming more fragile, smaller, less quality in it, because we don't have a good money, right? Like the Bitcoin Standard, which is a book that I love, talks about when money is good, society flourish, right? When on the opposite, when money is fake, then everything else doesn't have any value, because if I had something that I true value and you want to take it off me, you have to produce something which is extremely valuable to convince me to exchange my money, or whatever you want to call it, with your product. So that means there is good product in the market. Whether when money is fragile and fake, well, then I can exchange it with everything. I mean, how do you think Bitcoin can come in and save us from this mess?
Yeah. So remember, all of these things, similar to you asking when the U.S. currency is going to fail, is actually by doing so, what people don't realize in that question is what they're actually asking. If you dig deeper, is when is my trade going to matter, right? When I was so if you think instead of that way, and this is, in other words, this is already happening. It's not when does this happen. You've been in Bitcoin for a long time now. In measured against your Bitcoin, for sure all prices are falling. They continue to fall, right? Energy prices are falling, your house prices are falling, your rents are falling. Every price on the planet is falling. Why is that? Because a money measures other things, right? A money doesn't measure another money to measure other things, right? And so it can, if you want to. So if you want to convert Bitcoin to your US dollar to measure things keep going up, it will look like things are going up to you. But if you truly understand Bitcoin, you have a protocol, a protocol that's never existed before, that's decentralized and secure and bounded by energy. It also creates energy abundance by its very nature, by allowing the free market to work for energy too. But so now you have a protocol, and most people are measuring the protocol like it's a technology. So you have a protocol that's bounded by energy. So it's tethered to the real world physics of energy. And energy is a first principle of life, right? No energy, no life. We are energy. It is a base layer of that Bitcoin is tethered to energy. You could say it's the source. And so based on that protocol, all prices are falling exactly as they should be, right? So we've already agreed for I'm going to say some first principle statements, right? So try to challenge this statement. And if you can't challenge a statement, or try like, and give all your might to challenge that the natural state of the free market is deflation. And if that is true, and you have a new protocol bounded by energy, then what should be true from that protocol is it should measure prices falling forever.
Yeah.
Right. And when you say, when is this happening? Well, it's happening. It's crazy to me, right? Because it's happening all the time. It's happening forever. But you have people that don't understand that they're measuring this protocol from their fiat instrument that's being debased, and ironically, they're actually making their world stronger against them, because it's just prisoners. It's prisoner's dilemma at the highest order from the other system, because somebody has to lose for you to gain, but you don't really gain because the world breaks down while you gain.
It looks like we both are living into the Bitcoin standard, right? So we try to have less fiat as possible in our lives, and on the other side, we want to store our energy and time into something we believe is valuable, aka Bitcoin. How do you deal with volatility?
I just know what's important in my life. I carry a very little bit of fiat, just so, and the only reason I do that is so that I'm not liquidated in some point of volatility, and I don't have any debt to speak of, so I could lever up and gain more Bitcoin, right? But then I would risk that leverage in Bitcoin. And Michael Saylor does that, and he does it extraordinarily well. Other people do that, and they do it extraordinarily well. I don't feel like I need to for my life to. I don't. For me, money is information. It's information that describes what I really want, and I want more time, and I want more time with family, friends, spending the time on things that matter in my life. So it's not about a race for me to gain more and more of the pie, right? And maybe taking massive risks to take more of the pie. I have enough. I have what I need. Now I want to enjoy my time with the people that I spend time with, and it's all about that. So the volatility doesn't bother me at all, like not even a bit. I just, as I buy it all the time, I can continually convert more to it, because it is my functional currency. That's how I think about it.
I think money is an amplifier. So I like to think if you're a person who has everything they want in life, then you will find what you really want to do, right? And people don't even ask themselves, what is money? What is inflation? Why I'm going to work? Why I'm paying taxes? Why they're doing this? It just becomes normal. We live into a society where society itself conveniently breeds us into having mortgages, using that, and staying in one place. And that's why I love Bitcoin so much, because if in self-custody, well, then you are technically 100% independent, right? You can transfer value to other people. And when I say value, I mean it, because when I do sell my Bitcoin to do something like you mentioned, maybe I have to buy something I need, or I am passing on karmically something really good to someone else, because I know that whatever I'm selling for some garbage fiat that I need for the short term is going to grow into something beautiful in 10 years. But everything else I use, if I look into the karmatic energy of the universe, it's just sad to pass on garbage. In order to see this, you have to full going into the Bitcoin standard, because unless you, like you describe, have all your money into Bitcoin, well, it's going to become incredibly hard for you to understand what does it mean when we say one Bitcoin equal one Bitcoin, right? To go back to what you said earlier. So, how long do you think we have before more people are going to realize this that we are discussing now?
So we talked off camera about your journey, right? And so how long did it take you to your journey? And still, some of your time right now is in kind of in coins, not in coins, but even though you are full on a Bitcoiner, you have a program that you help out in that says, and you've already made the decision that you're going to transition, so, which is powerful. So now think about that through, and you know way more than probably 99% of the people out there, and you still have that program. So this isn't about other people, it's about us. It's about when do we each make the time commitment. If we know that the other system is stealing our energy, and we spend time, and if we spend our time, majority of our time in it, then who do we have to look at, right? To say those other people, because we were all once them too. We all once didn't see this because there was no such thing. There was no, I say this often, but in our minds, there's nothing to compare Bitcoin against because there's never been a protocol like it in human history. Understanding, and then how much time you want to shift into the new system. It is all us. Matt Odell does this really great, and he does it in caps all the time on Nostr, because he's trying to pull. He only spends time in Nostr. I only spend time on that communication platform now, and I go, because you have to pull yourself out of the matrix to be able to do it. And then when everybody else says, well, I'll do it when everyone else does it, right? I'm going to spend all my time here, right? Then it doesn't happen. So what does that mean? Like generally, what it means, and kind of at the highest level, there is no they. It's only us, right? And so when you say those other people, you're really a mere reflection of those other people. It's all us. And when we move our time, the time expands for ourselves. It's just a beautiful thing. You see more opportunity, you see more benefit, and you want to spend more time. But we also have to. No, we don't have to. Everybody can choose whatever they want. But I choose to empathize with somebody else going through that journey, because I had to go through that journey too. And I've noticed from every single person I've met, if I try to push them to my view of the world and say that you have to do it, or judge them for then they typically stay there, right? They have to find for themselves why this is so much more valuable, and it heals the world. So what's the speed of this transition? Every one of us in the world going through that transition I just described.
Because again, this comes from a place of, I guess, ego, where you say, hey, I want everyone to go into the Bitcoin so the Bitcoin price goes up. But then the desire is broken from the beginning, right?
100%. So that's the point. And so the Bitcoin price goes up relative to the US dollar that's going down. You're actually making the system stronger. Even all of those Bitcoins that are doing that. So the price of Bitcoin goes up in the instrument that's being debased, are actually the part of the attack vector to Bitcoin getting controlled by layer 2. Right. Because what they're really saying is, I'm going to make a trade for Bitcoin. I'm going to make a trade. It's all about a trade for me. I don't think in those terms at all, but I understand that many people do on their way through to a deeper understanding of what it takes. So it's just part of the journey.
Do you see a future where we are going to build things on top of Bitcoin, like layer 2, layer 3s, where we were discussing off camera about the internet and all those TCP, IP, HTTP, FTP, SMTP protocols we used to have back in the days, and now we have Wi-Fi, we have things we couldn't ever imagine back then. Do you foresee some sort of a base layer for money where we can build
Yes.
things on top?
So from a lens of, so if you look at this lens of Bitcoin's a protocol bounded by energy, decentralized and secure, but it couldn't scale, right? It could, then all of the things that on top of that, including things that I just hate, right? The block size wars to kind of cash. Bitcoin had to be used as peer-to-peer money, otherwise it would fail. Inside that, there's actually some truth. Because if people didn't use Bitcoin, and it's a nuance, so yes, there might be some people trying to drive control, right? But there's also some truth, because if Bitcoin couldn't be used as money, it would fail as a store of value, just like gold has failed as a store of value. It has to be used peer to peer to be able to do this. So it wasn't, and so some people that were in that fight may have been confused of the fight because they thought if it wasn't used as money, we have to do this. And they got, not realizing that it would centralize nodes because of big block size and ruin the decentralization and security. There's other people that built other protocols that realized that Bitcoin wasn't private enough. And if it couldn't be private, it would eventually get captured. There's other people built, Vitalik it came up with the blockchain trilemma to essentially sell a coin, right? Because he was on Bitcoin first, but it couldn't scale. And what's natural in human, we want to improve on what was there before. And so all of these people in this whole nonsense, you remember, and this was happening with, if you just held Bitcoin on self-custody, you were, versus the fiat world, you were getting rich by doing nothing. Is it the free market, right? The free, by doing nothing. Yeah. So of course that would create this explosion of, I have a better Bitcoin. I have the new best thing. Of course it would. Added to the confusion that most people don't understand protocols at all. They think in terms of technologies, if they think in terms of technologies. So you have a protocol imposing this new discipline that is resistant to change. And then now I'm going to get into how this is resolved. Just like it was resolved in TCP IP and then in all of the different layers and then HTTP, it's resolved on top of Bitcoin by actually having scarcity drives the innovation to the next layer. And there's trade-offs in the next layer that, but any of the next layers don't sacrifice the layer on below. Lots of innovation, lots of people trying the different things. And then Lightning gets designed and it gets worked and it gets more and more efficient. And today, Lightning on top of Bitcoin, which is really Bitcoin, tethered to it, is growing faster than the internet was in the 90s. And people don't see it because they're measuring Bitcoin price go up versus the US dollar going down, and they're thinking about it, the base, the protocol layer. Now you have a peer-to-peer, a super highway network, a peer-to-peer on top of Bitcoin that is way more private than Bitcoin. On top of that, Fediment, or kind of integrated to that Fediment, which is a eCash protocol, completely private. And I mean private messaging, private everything in there is completely private. Private money on top of that that's intercompatible with these things. Nostr as a digital ID, not a digital ID tied to your government, a digital ID, your own web of trust tied to cryptography, is a part of that, right? That's building these social networks that are completely decentralized and tethered to a protocol bounded by energy. That all of these things now, they're interoperable together. And an explosion of innovation is happening that is tethered to this in layers to Bitcoin. Now, at the same time, there's a noise and there's a whole bunch of VC money and nonsense money from the existing ecosystem that's talking about layer twos to tether that aren't real. That is just all another scam. So today, the ICO scam is layer twos. Most of these layer twos are going to go to zero, but there's lots of money to convince you to part with your money when this other layer two that if you use that layer two and not use Bitcoin, that you can concentrate a whole bunch of short-term wealth out of it, but they all fail too. So, but you already have a protocol stack right now that can scale to 8 billion people without a change. And that protocol stack right now that can scale to 8 billion people would be Bitcoin at the base, Lightning Liquid, Nostr, Fediment, Cashew, just those alone, not without any more innovation, can scale Bitcoin to 8 billion people in a safe, secure manner. And it's already available. So it's exploding exploding in more and more use cases, and more people, as they understand the interoperability of this, and how low a cost it is to build value there. They're building value there. And that's and each person that steps out of their fiat brain into the system is kind of seeing that opportunity expand at an amazing rate.
It reminds me when I lived in China and I was picking up Mandarin, learning Mandarin. My friends have said to me, you have to stop thinking about water in English and translate into shui, which is the word for Mandarin. You have to think about shui, which is water, right? So it's the same thing is happening with Bitcoin and dollars and euros. Matter of fact, if you compare, as we speak now, one Bitcoin, you can compare it with so many different currencies and the value changes completely, even though everything kind of is pegged to the dollar because it's the world reserve currency, yada, yada. But still, there is a different value there. So it's all a crazy illusion. To tie it up to what you said earlier, I mean, I was kind of grow up into a phase where we didn't have phones, we had maps, and you had to stop someone and say, hey, how do I get there? And he or she would point to the map and say, take the second on the left or whatever, which was a very different place than where we are today, where we interact with a lot of digital devices. We don't actually own anything, because back in the days when I used to go into a toy store and purchase the toy was mine. I could do whatever I wanted, paint it, break it, burn it, gift it to someone. But nowadays, all is digital. We don't even have property rights anymore. So this is where, for me, Bitcoin, the hook came in. It's like, wow, this is something because I don't believe you own your property. By the way, your house is not yours. The gold is not yours. Someone else has it on your behalf. So then what do I have? I mean, if stored properly in self-custody, then Bitcoin has all of it. What do you think about ETFs, though? Because on the ETFs, we could argue that if you put fiat, because money is Bitcoin, if you put fiat into the ETF and BlackRock has it, well, then technically you don't, and they do. So what's your view on the ETFs?
Yeah, so let me go first to something you just picked up on, because I think it's so critical. If you measure Bitcoin price and a whole bunch of other fiats, right, you will see that it doesn't care how many pieces of paper you want to print against the Bitcoin price. It just looks higher versus those pieces of paper. Everybody nods to that and they go, yeah, those crazy people in Venezuela where Bitcoin is $60 million per Bitcoin, because those people don't understand inflation, and they don't understand what happens with inflation, how it drives politics, and it drives more and more individual rights and freedoms being taken. Right. And then they look at those stupid people in Venezuela who still are living like that from their piece of paper. Well, and then they think they're not in the US. Right. It's nuts. It's and what I said before is those other people, and they don't see it in themselves. They completely don't see it in themselves. On ETFs, if all it did is brought more awareness to what we're talking about, then that's a good thing. Then more people take the first step and they buy an ETF. Personally, when you took the first step and traded, you didn't hold your keys, right?
Yeah.
And you bought from an exchange, and the exchange stole your money, and it wasn't your Bitcoin. That was a hard lesson, but you learned then about Bitcoin to be able to self-custody, why it's so important to be a node in the network and actually hold yourself. So you went through it, that very exact example, and lots of people are going to get burned by that in time. But then there's lots of people that are going to get burned over time. There's some of those people who are going to take a step deeper into the rabbit hole and start understanding all of the different things that we're talking about right now, which speed the transition. Now, I say this as long as Bitcoin is used peer-to-peer as a payment mechanism as well, because if it was only ever a store of value, and you consolidated through ETFs, and everybody used the derivative instrument, the US dollar, to price Bitcoin. If everyone, that won't happen, but if everyone, it won't happen because of the innovation and people understanding this, because once you see this, you can't unsee it. But if everyone did that and everybody trusted other exchanges for the Bitcoin, and then everybody was measuring Bitcoin price going up versus the US dollar on a system that must inflate forever and drive more, essentially from that inflation, drive more control and loss of individual rights and freedoms against a system that has to drive a free market system that allows deflation. From that system, that control structure would attack Bitcoin, or they would first suppress Bitcoin price through derivatives because nobody would care enough. And then it would try to control Bitcoin from that. It's a good thing if it's driving more awareness and knowledge. And that's what we do as humans. We see an insight. Once we see it, we can't unsee it, and it spreads across people, and more people start to understand it. And so, but this is very early in this process, right? And what we're talking about is a base layer change to society that society has never seen before. And we're intuiting the what that means by first principles to instead of, because we can't measure what that means. We have to what do the new rules impose on society? And they impose a free market system, and that imposes governments get smaller and smaller and smaller, and that imposes freedom and removal of borders, and that imposes a world that we've never seen before.
It's super interesting that everything is based on proof of work. And I like to think that there is a component in which you'll have to put the work yourself, not just to study, but you have to be tested, because I doubt that anyone is going to come into Bitcoin from day one and they'll do everything, quote, right, even though technically everything is right because it's a path. So whatever. But if you rewind the philosophical moment, the fact that you might trust an ETF or you might trust an exchange, or you need to understand not your key, not your coins, all those things, challenges to make sure that when you get to the other side of the island, you go, okay, I've been tested.
Yeah, it makes total sense. It's actually also why once you're there, or you think you have an understanding, I think about my own journey in this, but it must be true for everyone else, is there's so many aha moments as you go deeper and deeper into this. That you go, and at the previous aha moment, you thought you knew everything, right?
Yes.
And then you get another one, and then you get another one, and then you get another one. And as you're going down there, it feels so different from the rest of the world that people are experiencing from. And it can feel, and you want to tell everyone everything you learned in all of that journey immediately. And you're and it feels like almost like, how can't they see this when you yourself didn't see it years ago when it went through that journey? So that journey is the same for every single person through this. It should get easier because more people, both the technology gets easier, and it's been around longer, and there's more people that understand it. They're starting to kind of find ways to be able to communicate it in a way that somebody can see through their prism and to take the glimpse to get deeper, and then those people take the steps to the journey. So that whole thing will accelerate as more, how early we are on it. Here's a really simple. I say it all the time, but if we were even in the early adopter stage, everyone in Venezuela would already be Bitcoiners, right? Why isn't everybody in Egypt? Why isn't everybody in Turkey? Why isn't everybody in where you have this rampant inflation all the time, and you just have these centralized authorities that just decree, I'm going to steal this much money this year, revalue your currency, and everything you worked with your whole life is gone. Why in those countries, if we were even close to the early majority, isn't this a 60%, 70%, 80% adoption, and you can tell from that how much hold over us from our own actions within that system holds. And so if that's true for everyone else, you just have to realize, I bet you a whole bunch of people from this podcast will realize, I hope they realize it's true for them too. They're likely not spending as much time into this new system as they could or would want to. Well, they're all talking about everyone else, why those people don't get it.
We see in other people things we have, qualities we have, right? So whenever you say to someone, oh, she makes me crazy because she does so and so, well, because you have it, because otherwise you couldn't see it. so
that's a really interesting thing, because nobody makes you crazy. We all have different views and everything else, and nobody can make you
without your permission.
It's your feelings of what they said that drive your that drive your actions or your thoughts. So how could somebody living in their own life, right, and their ideas make you mad, right? They're just it's your description of it. It's your feelings, because you want to control what they think. You want to be right. That's driving that.
I agree. Also, I think you want to blame someone else because you don't want to be, quote, in charge. That's another thing that I like about Bitcoin, because when you remember those 12 words, you are in charge. So if something goes wrong, it's, quote, your fault. And some people are scared about this because they rather blame the government, blame the weather, blame. If I want to go and do a picnic and it starts raining, it's really the rain who ruined my picnic? No, it's my perception that the rain has done it, because I could go and have a great time if I want to. So
yeah, dance in the rain. Exactly.
Exactly. So, but it becomes convenient to say, no, because of the rain, I didn't go. Well, no, you didn't go because you didn't want to go, because you could have gone either with the rain. And again, taking responsibility. That's why I like when I talk to people like yourself, because when you say I'm a Bitcoiner, you are telling much more than you think you are.
That's why I remember when I was traveling and doing a bunch of conferences and such, and at that time my family wasn't coming with me, and I'd come away from these so inspired by some of the other people I met that were Bitcoiners, and my wife asked she at first, like, what this is like, who are these people and everything else, and then she started meeting some. She started to come in the conferences, and she'd said to me, I get it. Get it. These are all your people, right? This is what it looks like. This is the same thread that has been in all your friends and everything else, in which your whole life, and so what you just described, and normally, as you understand, as Bitcoiners, they have to take this journey too to actually understand this, and you find wow, and that's why I'm so positive about where this goes, because the beauty that is that when you really understand this, and you start to, for me, I get to spend my time with some of the best entrepreneurs in the world, and and when I say not just the best entrepreneurs, some of the like here, people that you do anything for, such beautiful souls trying to spread this around the world through trying to create more value. That it's a beautiful spot to be, and there's so many people in this ecosystem that are doing that it just, and it spreads. That's why I'm really positive on life finds its way, right? We find a way. Scarcity actually powers innovation. And so as we have this centralized behemoth that's stealing our energy, we have a choice to create more value for others, right? Because this is stealing their energy. And the value we create for others is the free market that I'm talking about is expanding. And one power, it's almost a yin and yang thing. One is powering the other. And so it's actually giving strength to all of those people that are doing that are doing this work that provides a path forward for humanity.
Thank you so much. I hope we can do this again. I really enjoy having you on the show. It means a lot to me. Thank you.
Thanks. Really enjoyed it myself.
Thank you so much, guys, for watching. We'll see you on the next one.